He cites the Chazal when it says Vayishma Yisro, what did he hear? So Rashi says he heard two things. He heard the splitting of the sea, and he heard about the Milchemes Amalek, how we were attacked by Amalek. So we explained what that meant was that Yisro understood that if it's possible that even after seeing something as magnanimous as splitting of the sea and not understanding the truth of the reality of monotheism, where Hashem couldn't have displayed himself in a more obvious way, which is literally irrefutable, how does Amalek attack the Jewish people? So what does that mean? So we see clearly this concept that a person, even till the very last moment, you're not guaranteed you're going to maintain that level of clarity, despite the fact of what you believe that you're at that point. Because if that's possible, if that's impossible, how does Amalek attack us? Evidently, you see, you're never secure. Therefore, Yisro understood, although he's a monotheist, although he had served all the deities and came to the conclusion of truth, nevertheless, unless he attaches himself to the source of truth, which are the Jewish people, he's always in a precarious position. He may revert back to become a pagan. That's where we explained it. However, if you look in the words of the Midrash, so what spurred him on to come? That Amalek could attack us even after seeing the splitting of the sea. However, if you look in the Midrash Tanchuma, it's not so simple. The Midrash says, Shama Kama Nisim Nasul Yisrael. When Yisro heard of the many miracles that were done on behalf of the Jewish people, both in this Gayer, he became to convert. Vayishma Yisro. Yisro heard Ma Ksiv L'Malach. What is juxtaposed to Yisro hearing? Ma Palto Shel Amalek. The downfall of Amalek. The way I'm explaining it, he had heard that it's possible that even after God being so obvious, irrefutably obvious, if Amalek could attack us, that clearly says you're never in a position where you're guaranteed that your level of clarity is going to remain permanent. Because if Amalek could attack us, even after God displaying himself to such a degree that all the nations of the world saw God clearly, and they were terrified and paralyzed and overwhelmed, how does Amalek attack us? Evidently, see, as clear as it is, it's never clear enough. But the Medrash says no. What spurred him on? What's juxtaposed to Yishma, Yisro? What was discussed earlier, Ma Pelosa Shel Amalek, the downfall of Amalek. It doesn't say that Amalek attacked us. The downfall, how he was defeated. So if you see how he was defeated, so if that's the case, it's difficult. What's so impressive how he's defeated? We're talking about a nomad band. He was defeated. What's so impressive that he was defeated? Milchemes Amalek, the way the Medrash says, Milchem means our victory over Amalek. Okay? Now, when Yeshua went to battle, so I was thinking just this moment, when Yeshua went to battle against Amalek, did he destroy them? He did not destroy them. So Rashi says over there, he had the ability to destroy them, but it was al pi adibur that he was told not to destroy them. He was told not to destroy them. What does that mean? I mean, if Amalek represents the ultimate evil, and God's throne cannot be complete until this entity is eradicated from existence, why does Hashem allow them to continue? And Hashem said to Moshe, tell Yeshua not to destroy. He has the ability to destroy them, that there should not be one of them left, but leave them to continue. What's it all about? So the way I'm explaining it's this way. He heard how the Mapelos, what was the downfall? They weren't totally eradicated. They weren't. Why were they not eradicated? Because Hashem always wants that level of representation of Amalek, that they should always, that's your challenge. That you challenge it till the end of time, that as much as you think that you're in a secure position, you're not in a secure position. Mapelosa doesn't mean they were defeated. how the downfall came about. The downfall was not complete. Why was not complete? Because God chose that they should not be destroyed. Because He wants this always should be a challenge till the end of time. So if we're going to be challenged till the end of time, we better put ourselves in a safe place, in a secure place, and the securest place regarding this issue is to become part of the Jewish people. So the Mapaloso Shalamot doesn't mean that downfall. It's how that downfall came about that they were not fully eradicated. It has to be. If Amalek has this level of representation of evil, why did God say to Yeshua, eradicate him? And yet we find by Shaul, his failing was that he left one lone survivor. Who was that? That was Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And as a result of that, as it says in Chazal, that night before Shmuel had killed him, he impregnated a woman, and that was the continuation of the seed of Amalek. Although Agag was killed the next day. The Gemara says that when came into Yisro, we were given a number of mitzvahs. What were they? To conquer the land, right? We were meant to conquer the land. And then it says to appoint a king. We were obligated to appoint a king when we came to Eretz Yisrael, to destroy Amalek, and to build the Beis Hamikdash. Those were the three mitzvahs: to appoint a king, to destroy Amalek, and build the Beis Hamikdash. Amalek had to be destroyed, firstly, in Eretz Yisrael. It had to be destroyed. First, we had to have the king in place. The king had to be the one to destroy Amalek. And afterwards, we had an obligation to build the Beis Hamikdash, and that was the sequence of the events. Shaul was appointed to be the king. He was given the charge to destroy Amalek. He failed. And then David became the king, and he has the eternal kingdom of the Jewish people. And his son built the Beis Hamikdash. Right? That's the sequence of events. So therefore, Amalek was not destroyed before he came into Israel because it was meant that it should be done by the king of Israel. He should be the one to lead the charge to destroy Amalek, to eradicate evil. And before, we weren't yet in Eretz Yisrael. The location of our base, right, is Eretz HaKadosha. We have to be in the location where there's no archangel. Every nation has its location in the world with an archangel. We have to be in the Eretz HaKadosha. It's our location. And our location, when they come and attack us, we destroy them there. Now this is that moment. Therefore, the mitzvah was not to destroy them, to leave a remnant, so that when they exist there, we're going to destroy them over there. Okay. Moshe. Yisro, the form of Moshe, as Tzipora, Ashes Moshe. Tzipora, the wife of Moshe, Achishu Luchel. After she was sent away. When was she sent away? So we read the story that when Moshe had gone to Egypt, he had taken Tzipora. Those story when he hesitated to circumcise his son. Tzipora is the one who circumcised Eliezer. So Rashi over there says, when did he send her away? When Hashem had said to Moshe, return to Egypt, Vayikach Moshe's Ishtov is Bonov. So the Torah tells us Moshe took his wife and he took his sons. They say Aaron the Caroso. Aaron went out to approach him, and he met him in Har Elokim. So we asked Moshe, who are these people? Who's this woman? Who are these children? This is my wife who I married in Midian, and these are my children. Where are you taking them to? I'm taking them to Egypt. We're paying for those who are entrenched in this location of impurity, and you're coming to bring more Jews there. Meaning Aaron said it's not a good idea. So what did he say? Meaning he says they should not come. Return to your father's home. She took her two sons and she returned. So now Yisro is bringing his wife and children back after they were sent away, because initially they were meant to come and they were sent back. Now let's understand. Moshe's family did not witness the 10 plagues in Egypt. The whole idea of to see the totality of God's omnipotence with the 10 plagues, that he rules the terrestrial, the celestial, and the ultimate, which is to be able to discern between the seed of a firstborn and not the firstborn, to witness that and participate in the Korban Pesach, which every Jew did. His children were denied that. What does that mean? They were denied that. Moshe understood what Egypt was. Moshe was in Egypt initially. He fled because he killed the Egyptian and he understood what it was all about. And now he's coming back. And God said, go back. And you're going to perform miracles. And you're going to be the Goel. You're going to be the Redeemer. Aaron says, regarding all that, it's still not worthwhile. Meaning, Aaron being on the scene for many more years. Moshe hasn't been in Egypt for what? He left, he was 18 years old. He's coming back, he's 80 years old. He's been absent for over 60 years. Things deteriorated, were holding over by the Memtesh Sharituma, the 49th level of impurity, which wasn't the case when Moshe left. To expose your children to be in that state, in that location, he says, with all the miracles in the world, whatever they're going to see, it's not worthwhile. You know, as they say, why fix it? It's not broken. Why expose them to this impurity if they were never exposed? We'd explained that the Medrash Vayi Bishal Parasa'om, if you remember, I mentioned in Beis HaLevi that Hashem said, woe to me that I couldn't bring more plagues upon the Egyptians, because the Jews had to leave at that moment. However, because they left prematurely, the effect of the bondage was still to a degree in place, and there were certain microscopic cells of that impurity, which ultimately led to the Chet HaEgel. It led to the Chet HaEgel. Despite that they saw all these revealed miracles, the 10 plagues, and there's a discussion how many plagues, each plague was 4 miracles, 5 miracles. That's the calculation. How many miracles took place at the sea? Was it 50 miracles? Was it 200 miracles? Was it 250 miracles, which we discussed in Haggadah? So we see over there being exposed, even with all the miracles, it wasn't enough to totally expunge the impurity of the location of being in Egypt. And Aaron understood that. Moshe did not understand it at that moment. But when Aaron told him it's not worthwhile to bring them, he sent them back. But let's take it one step further. There's a machlokes in the Medrash whether Yisro came after Kabbalas Torah or he came before Kabbalas Torah. According to the opinion, it's Rav Yehuda's opinion that he came after Kabbalas Torah. You know what that means? Moshe's own children missed Kabbalas Torah. All Jews were there. Moshe, the one who received the Torah, was the conduit for the Torah to come into its existence. His own family did not witness Kabbalas Torah. When God spoke to the Jewish people, his children were not there at the time. It was not worthwhile to take a chance to expose them to the negative, despite the fact they're going to miss Kabbalas Torah. It's something unbelievable. According to that opinion, right? The Medrash says brings a proof that opinion is not acceptable, because we see Yisro, when he advised Moshe regarding setting up a judicial system, the laws, that means he witnessed the laws that were given at Sinai. Okay, but you're asking, according to that opinion, would that be a reason why Eliezer was not qualified to be the successor of Moshe Rabbeinu? There's a medrash, a famous medrash, and Moshe originally believed his son would be a successor. He believed his son would be a successor. And Hashem says to Moshe, no, it's Yeshua ben Nun. It's your disciple. Why? Because he did not leave your presence for a moment. Because his level of attachment to Torah was at a level unequaled by anyone else. And because he sacrificed the Torah, therefore he will be a successor. But Moshe initially had believed, being his son, he met the grade to be worthy to be the successor. Hashem says, no, he's not the one. So we see, according to either opinion, whether they were at Sinai, not at Sinai, whatever it was, 40 years later, Moshe is going to pass away, his children were there, that he believed that they would be a successor. Hashem says, no, they're not the ones. That's Yeshua ben Nun. Okay? If you remember, Balak had commissioned Bilam to curse the Jewish people. Moshe already was special when he left. As it said, he killed the Egyptian by enunciating the name of Hashem. That means he was at a very special level initially. When he commissioned the Bilam to curse the Jews, they did their research. The Jews were just destroying the enemies one after another. What is the power of the Jews? So they said their leader, he actually grew up and was mentored or whatever, was exposed for many years in Midian. Let's do our homework. They went to Midian and they asked the elders of Midian, who is this Moshe? And they said to him, to Balak, his power lies in his mouth. It's not physical, it's spiritual. So when they heard that his power lies in his mouth, that whatever he says, that's what happens, and that's how he defeats and vanquishes his enemies, we're going to get a person who is his equivalent. Who's his equivalent? Bilam. Bilam, his power also lies in his mouth. He has the power to curse. So Moshe, even in Midian, was known among the populace there that he's a very holy spiritual person, that he's able to do things that nobody else is able to do. Because his power, they didn't appreciate what it was, because they equated Bilam to Moshe Rabbeinu.
Understood. So it's known that he's special.
If you read the story of the burning bush, the dialogue between Moshe and Hashem, he says, why don't you have the one who's represented you all these years, let him be the Redeemer, not me. So Aaron was God's man in Egypt all the years. Aaron was a prophet. We find that Miriam was a prophet at the age at when she was 6 years old. So Aaron was God's man. Did Aaron know whether he'd be the Redeemer or not? I mean, Aaron was also a very humble person. Whatever God will bring, that's what's going to be.
And so Hashem says to Aaron, go meet your brother, and he's just
and he told him, and your brother will be the Redeemer. And that's what Hashem says. He will go out with joy in his heart when he hears that you're a Redeemer, despite that he's the older brother.
And so last question. So Aaron's able to leave Goshen or wherever the Levium are hanging out, even though no Jew had ever been permitted to leave?
That's a good question. Evidently, it says they met in Har Elohim. I mean, how did he get out? That's a question. Not sure how he got out. Because it says when Moshe escaped, it was like they couldn't imagine how did he break out. Right? There's this invisible shield. You can't get out. He got out. So how did Aaron meet him? I'm not sure. You want to know something? Maybe Paro wasn't aware of it. Paro wasn't aware of that meeting. With Moshe escaping, that he was aware of because he escaped. But Aaron going out, Paro wasn't aware of that. But he was able to get out, as Moshe was able to get out. But it's a Pirkei Avos tells a story. There was a person, his name was Rabbi Yossi Mikismo. He was walking, and he was one of the leading Torah sages of the generation, and he meets this person, and this person says to him, Shalom Aleichem Rebbe Mori. He refers to him Rebbe Mori. The first time we met that he saw, he was a great rabbi. So he says, Aleichem Shalom. So he says to him, would you like to come to our community? We need a rabbi. We need a Torah sage to lead our community. So he asks the person, he says, What's what's your community comprised of? What kind of people live there? Do you have Sofrim? Do you have Talmidei Chachamim? Do you have these kinds of people there? She says, no, we don't. So the person says to him, but you realize if you come to us, there's no salary we're not going to pay you. We'll pay you gold and silver and gems, whatever you want, we're going to give you. So he says to this person, I will not go to community with no Sofrim, with no Talmidei Chachamim. Unless the basis for the community is Torah itself, I will not go there. And that you offer me a fortune, gold, silver, and gems, quotes a pasuk, Li Hakesu Li Azov. Hashem says, look, when it comes to wealth, everything's mine. It's mine to give, it's mine to take. So therefore, that's not an attraction. I will not go to a community unless the power base is Torah itself. And since it's not that kind of community, I will not go there. What do you mean? You're this great Torah sage. You understand? You don't put yourself in the position where you may be compromised unless you have to, unless you have no choice. He has a choice, and his choice is not to go there. What about the financial incentive? Financial incentive is not impressive because if Hashem wants to give me that kind of wealth, he can give me that wealth. If that's the case, I'm not going. I mean, it's a semblance of this. To go to a location where you may compromise who you are. So the question is, what about you do kiruv?
Yeah, how does the community become a Jewish community then?
He felt, but whatever it is, I'm not sure. They have to get someone else. They'd have to get someone else. But at his level, he felt, I mean, I told over a story that Rav Kalatsky Levenstein, who was the Mir Mashgiach in Europe, he spent 1 year in the United States. He came with the Mir Yeshiva right after the war. They came from Shanghai, they came to San Francisco by boat, and then they took the train from California, San Francisco to New York, and he lived in East New York for a year. That's where the students of Mir Yeshiva were for a year, and one of the students who was married, he was married in Shanghai. Both he and his wife, all their relatives perished in the Holocaust. They had no children, no relatives from either side. And they had 3 children born in Shanghai. And they had, when they came to the United States, they had triplets. And there's triplets. So two boys and a girl. How do I know this story so vividly? Because one of the triplets, when I was in yeshiva, I learned with him, but he was my chavrusa in Baltimore. He himself was about 2.5 years older than I was. He was one of the triplets. And in those years, Jews, they would go to Coney Island in the summer. So they had a bungalow in Coney Island, which was a beach community. But that's where people went. And Rav Kalatsky Levenstein was asked to be the sandik for the 2 sons. Rav Kalatsky Levenstein, the car which he would ride in when he was in New York, this is in 1946, 47, it had window shades in it that you were not able to look through the window, of course, except for the front window. But the side windows, or where he would look down, so he should not look out, not to see anything inappropriate. The bris it's the summertime, so early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, the car pulls up. It's about 15 feet from the curb to the entrance of the bungalow. Kalatsky Levenstein walks quickly from the car into the house, is the sandik, returns immediately. The car goes back to East New York. Kalatsky Levenstein said that he was exposed for the 15 feet in and out, it cost him 2 weeks of avodah. Meaning the environment, being a beach community, the environment, there was no, at 6 in the morning, no one's on the street. But what that community represented, it set him back 2 weeks. I mean, we can't relate to this. He had a capacity of spirituality that he was able to sense in the atmosphere that it's something which doesn't jive with what he's all about. He was compromised. So you understand? to be able to relate to what this is all about. Our own Moshe. I mean, we're talking about. It's not possible even to relate to what we're talking about over here. But what it was that, and Aaron said, despite the fact that children may miss Kabbalas Torah, despite the fact that they could definitely miss the 10 plagues, which seeing God in a way which the world never saw God displayed at this level of obviousness, it's not worth it. And he sent it back. Okay?
I'm sorry, Robert, just the interpretation that you mentioned.
Eshnei Boneo and her two sons, Asheshem Echad Gershom. The name of one was Gershom. Why was he called Gershom? Ki Omar Ger Yisberes Nafrio. I was a stranger in an alien land. Shem Echad Eliezer. And the name of the other one was Eliezer. It's the second son. Ki Elokei Ovi Bezri. The God of my father came to my aid. I was saved from the sword of Paro. So Rashi cites Chazal that when he fled from Egypt, initially he was being judged to be put to death. And the verdict was decapitation. A miracle happened. And when they tried to decapitate him, his neck became like a pillar of marble. They weren't able to decapitate him. As a result, he was able to flee. Shegilu doesn't avir al dvar mitzri bikesh laragas Moshe nasit savoro ka'omet shel shayus. His neck became like a pillar of marble. Now, what's the obvious question to ask here? Mark, what would you ask?
I apologize, Rabbi. I was distracted by my lovely wife for a moment.
The names are reversed. There should have been Eliezer first and Gershom.
No, even a better, that question I've asked in the past, Alan. Even a better question. The question is, Gershom was born years earlier. Eliezer was born right before he went to Egypt.
On the way, right.
On the way. Now, when Yisro is coming with Tzipporah and the two sons, also now Torah reveals the names. It doesn't tell us the names earlier. Only now we find out what he named him. Right? And why now? Why not? Usually when the Torah says, when Moshe's children were born, it says he named the first one that, and the second one another name. And what the significance of the names were. Why now, a year later, or more than a year later, when they finally coming out of Egypt, now Yisro's coming with Tzipor and two sons. He has two sons, and the name of A is this, and the name of B is that. Why not earlier? Why now? Torah is telling us over here that why wasn't Tzipor and his children with him? Because he sent them back. Why did he send them back? Because of what Egypt represented. Each of the names have some representation of what Midian was. What did Moshe name his first son? That's the question. Sequentially speaking, first son should have been named Eliezer, right? That's the question we asked in the past. Because it says, when was he saved from the sword of Paro, especially the way Rashi cites Chazal? Because when he fled. So the first son should have been named Eliezer, and the second son should have been Gershom. But yet he named the first son Gershom. I'm a stranger in a land which is foreign. And the second son was, I was saved from the sword of Paro. The question is why? Right? Sequentially, the first son should have been Eliezer, Paro. Okay, Alan, now you could say that what I answered was, a human being, we have a certain capacity to survive anything. We have survival. And part of the survival, inborn ability we have an ability to acclimate ourselves to whatever the situation may be. Moshe Rabbeinu's leaving Egypt, and Moshe Rabbeinu was at a special level, and he has no support system. At least in Egypt, he had his parents, he had the Levim, despite everything. Here he's going to a foreign location, no support system. He's exposed to who knows what. It may not be Egypt, but there's no support system. So what does a person normally do? You acclimate yourself. That's the natural, at a certain subliminal level, you start acclimating yourself. Moshe understood that not for a moment will he think that this is his place. And since the firstborn is always the most special to a person, what is the first and foremost that always should be in the front of his mind? Like we say, Shiri Hashem like the Soviet, David says, Geri Shiberetz Nachriya. This is not my place. I don't belong here. I will never consider being here. I'm a ger. I'm a stranger here. I'm a foreign land. That's the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu had named his firstborn Gershom for that reason. Eliezer, okay, that was the second. But that's why he didn't name the first one Eliezer, although sequentially, the second, what he named the second one, event-wise, happened first, for that reason. Now, but speaking about he sent them back, he sent his wife and children back. Until now, first we weren't even aware that it was back. The Torah now is revealing it. That Yisro is coming with his family. And the Torah is telling us, despite the fact that it's Geri Shiberetz Nachriya, as bad as Midian was still not Egypt. So revealing the names now gives us an appreciation for what Egypt was, despite the fact Geri Shiberetz Nachriya, which tells us what Midian was, whatever it was not Egypt. And as a result of that, he kept his wife, he left his wife in Midian with his children for that reason. That's what the Torah now is revealing the names and did not reveal them until now. One of the things in the source is Shloshinu Deshonam did not change their names. What was it so important? I think it's a similar concept. If the Jews would have changed their names, that would have contributed to to be acclimated to a greater degree. They would totally disappear altogether. Keeping our Jewish names, we'll never forget who we were. Regardless of our observance and our beliefs, we are still, this is our identity. Our language, our dress, and our names. That is the holdback that we should not be totally sucked into all what Egypt was all about. That's the equivalent of Geri Shiberetz Nachriya. So it could be Moshe Rabbeinu. When he left Egypt, the Jews were there for a while. The bondage already started. He was born, the decree was given to throw all the males into the Nile. That's why he was put in the Nile. So when he was growing up, he all of a sudden realizes all the Jews, they're slaves, and normally a slave immediately assumes the identity of the master. The Jews didn't. Names, language, dress, they did not. They always retained that. Moshe understood, when I go wherever I go, here we have endless Jews, and they're keeping their identity because they understand giving that up will cause them to totally assimilate, to disappear. When I go and I'm a lone man on a desert island in Midian, the first thing I have to understand, Geri Shiberetz Nachriya. I have to retain that cognizance, never to forget who I am, not to be drawn into whatever Midian is. Yavo Yisro, Chosid Moshe Bonav Ishto Moshe, Elamidbo. Moshe, the father of Moshe, his children and his wife of Moshe, they came into the desert. Asher Uchon Neshom Har Elokim. Torah's tell us is emphasized that he went out into the desert. We know he's in the desert. We're the Jews. They're in the desert. Ela Midbo Rashi, Af Onu Yodim Shemidbo Hoya. We know they're in the desert. Elo, B'shvocho Shel Yisro Diber HaKosov. The Torah wants to speak about the praiseworthiness of Yisro. Shor Yoshi B'chodu Shel Olam. He was in a location, was in the glory of the world. Unedovu Libo Lotze Sel HaMidbar Mokum Tov. And his heart was Nedovo, was generous to go out to give up what he had to a location of desolation, the Shmo Divrei Torah, to listen to words of Divrei Torah. You know, we find the Gemara says in Chagiga, there's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim where Shlomo says, Ma'agyofa Pamayich Bas Nediv. how beautiful are your paces, the daughter of the Nadiv. So the Gemara says, this is speaking about Alif Saregel. How beautiful are the paces of the Jewish people when they ascend the Temple Mount. What do you mean, the daughter of the Nadiv? Nadiv is like the philanthropist, the one who gave in a very special way. Bas Avram Avinu shenodvo libo l'shamayim. Avram is called the Nadiv. Why? Shenodvo libo l'shamayim. Because he gave his heart, full heart, to Hashem. So we are called the Bas Nadiv. The reason why he recognized God at the age of 3, when nobody else in the world recognized, is because Nodvo libo l'shamayim. Because he gave, without any holdbacks, his feelings, his emotion to Hashem. Therefore, he's called Maslo Aviv, using the same language. Why did he go into the Midbar? Because the Davo Libo. You know, the Mesillas Yesharim explains the heart, all emotion is in the heart. When we speak about love, right? Should love God with all your heart, the emotion. So Mesillas Yesharim explains the heart is the organ which it has the capacity, all feeling, all love is in the heart. There are many things we love. And if you have other things in the heart, one infringes on the other. But if a person, let's say, dedicates his full heart to one thing, that means he's consumed with that level of love. Avram Avinu nadu libo l'shamayim. He gave his full heart. Whatever the capacity of the heart was to love, it was only that, nothing else but Hashem. Yisro, what's the tell? He's Ela Midbar, Nodvo Libo, Lotzis Ela Midbar. That's the reason why. It's not so easy to give up. We love certain things, you know, the amenities, the comforts, the glory, the acknowledgement, whatever it is. Nodvo Libo. He exchanged that for what? To go receive the Torah. There's a famous story with the Chofetz Chaim. Chofetz Chaim had a son who passed away at the age of 20. And this son was literally a clone of his father. He had the capacity of his father. He wasn't married, he was single. Tremendous genius, photographic memory, tzaddik, and he passed away at the age of 20. And the Chofetz Chaim loved him, loved his son, more than all his other children. And when his son passed away, he said to Hashem, he says, until now, I shared my love between you and my child. Now, it's all yours. My heart is fully dedicated. There's nothing I love other than you. That was the Chofetz Chaim statement when the son passed away. Okay? I'm just saying, again, I'm just bringing out the point, Nodvo Libo, the heart. We find the Chofetz Chaim writes in the Brocha Ava Rabba, we say, V'yached levaveinu la'avo lirishmecha. Right? We say in Ava Rabba, V'yached levaveinu la'avo lirishmecha. You should designate our hearts to love and revere you. Yached, exclusively.
Okay.
It's this. Yached levaveinu, exclusively our hearts should be what? La'avo lirishmecha. Only that. So Chofetz Chaim explains with an allegory, and he says there was a person, he was a diamond merchant, and it was known he had 2 very exquisite diamonds, great value, and his neighbor always wanted to see these diamonds, what they looked like. And he didn't have the chutzpah, the audacity to ask the person who owned the diamonds, could he look at them? Could he see what they look like? All of a sudden, time passes. The neighbor who has the diamonds is going out of town, and he takes this ornate box with the diamonds and says to his neighbor, you know, I have nowhere to leave it. Could you keep it for me and watch it for me till I get back? So he says, of course. So he says to him, he says, you know, until now, I always was curious what these diamonds look like. When I have them, can I open the box and look at the diamonds? He says, of course you can look at the diamonds. So the neighbor, the one holding the diamonds, travels out of town. He opens the box. It's in this ornate box. It's wrapped in silk, and he opens the box and he sees these diamonds. He's amazed. He's never seen anything like it. But in the box, with these very invaluable diamonds, there are apple cores which are rotting in the same box with the diamonds. So he says, he doesn't understand what's going on over here. Here you have something so valuable, so precious, and you have refuse, garbage in the box. Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't go together. So Chofetz Chaim says, the heart loves, is the organ that has love, emotion, feeling. So we love Hashem, we love Torah, but simultaneously we have all this other garbage in our heart. We love other things, which are not in sync with what Torah is, what Kiddush is. We ask Hashem, designate our hearts exclusively only for love and for your name, nothing else but that. Meaning clean out all the junk. The heart should only contain only that, nothing else. That's Nadvu Liba L'Shamayim. He gave his heart fully for Hashem. Avram Avinu and Yisro when he went out to the desert. Okay, let's see the halacha.